from New York, Queens and Brooklyn, and I grew up there and started playing when I was 3 years old. Just started playing piano by ear, and then just eventually went into the music business, playing a lot of clubs, doing a lot of recording sessions. And what led me here was a TV show, The Rosie Show, Rosie O'Donnell Show, at Harpo Studios. I got called for in September 2011 to be a part of the house band on camera. And that show did not last long. It lasted a few months, and it was canceled. And then I went back to my regular gig, which was playing with Chic, with Nile Rodgers, the legendary Nile Rodgers, playing keys and singing background for him. And we did, a lot of work, and we've done a lot of tours, and just an incredible, amazing experience working with Nile Rodgers. Just true legend and true icon, playing his music. And so I find myself being in Chicago right now, and I decided to stay here as opposed to go back to New York because I really like the city, and the vibe is really nice, and the people are great. And I'm venturing into, putting out my solo project and focusing on that. I think the earliest musical experience I had was, I must have been like 4 or 4.5, something like that. And I remember I was on the piano and I was home and my mother was on the phone, and I just started playing something on the piano, and she was talking to someone on the phone, and she was like shocked that I was playing something by ear and playing with 2 hands. Because I only started playing with like my right hand when I was like 3.5. So that's my earliest memory of her flipping out and being excited and acting crazy when I played like the first real song, both hands on the piano, about 4.5. When I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, all I wanted to be was Michael Jackson. I mean, everybody in that, I grew up in the 80s, and so, yeah, I mean, that was my thing. So, but I was too shy to even think that I could be that. And then I used to sing a little bit. I never considered myself like a real true singer. I would just like express myself that way sometimes, and then when I had a high voice, and when my voice got deeper when I became a teenager, I was so shy. I didn't want to talk around people. It got too deep, and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to do anything like that. Then I started playing trumpet in high school and played a couple of other instruments, and then I was more into like the behind the scenes. I was influenced by a lot of producers, and I really wanted to do production and just be a behind the scenes person of composing and producing, and wasn't even really writing lyrics at that time, like as a late teenager. And then I really loved being in the studio. I really loved it. I wasn't even considering a career of being a live musician on stage at that point. I hadn't had a lot of experience of being in bands or anything other than in high school and junior high school. Yeah, then I started to get into the industry a little more and started to play on TV, and all of a sudden I'm in bands and backing up different recording artists, and traveling is what inspired me. I always had musical compositions and ideas in my head, but when the first time I went to Europe was like in 2000, the world just opened up for me. I just saw different people, different cultures, and different architecture, and just the act of going on stage and going to the next city and performing in front of all these people. It was incredible, and it would just open up my mind to a whole other world. And I remember being on that tour. I was actually this rapper, he passed away, Guru, and it was a Jazzmatazz project, and I was really blessed to be a part of that and work with him. And every hotel we were in practically had a piano in the lobby, and my mind was wide open. I started coming up with these songs, and then I heard lyrics for the first time. And then I started to, a couple years after that, kind of sing background for a few recording artists and play keyboards. And artists like Amel LaRue, and then R&B singer Joe. And then I really felt myself coming out of my shell of being, just keyboard player, and being a little shy and not wanting to be out in front like that. And I felt myself being very confident of putting the whole thing together, of these ideas I had, and all of a sudden these lyrics and concepts for songs, and going through different relationships, and then developing a voice again in a different kind of way, and it all just kind of formed together. I grew up I had kind of a strange upbringing. I wouldn't say strange in a bad way, just unorthodox. I didn't have the exposure to like a whole catalog of mainstream and popular music like maybe other musicians would, because I grew up very religious. So in my household, it was definitely classical music, and a lot of jazz and swing. It's selanonline.com. So SELAN online.com. Build your own fan base. It sounds like a lot of work, but 800 million people so far, I think, close to 1 billion people already on Facebook. So it's something we're all on. It's a part of our day. Just make it a part of your day to do something every day to promote yourself, to build a fan base. And you need content. I mean, YouTube, the same thing. You can't just put something out there and expect for people to just find it. You have to have people find you. So to have people find you, even though you might have a nice project, a nice song, a nice album, it has to be something that's going to grab people's attention. Maybe an interesting video. It could even be a video like what we're doing right now, just some kind of interview or EPK or a performance or something creative that will bring people to your project. It's these days, even major artists, they're doing EPs. They're not really selling, depending on record sales, to drive up their fan base. They're looking towards touring and merchandising and doing other things to actually bring people back to actually listen to the album, as opposed to using their album as a way to just sell itself. You've got to be a composite artist. You have to know how to wear a lot of hats. You have to be educated on a lot of things other than just, I just want to put music out. That's the old way. The new way is, it's in the power, as you and I were talking about before. It's in the power. It's in our hands now. It's not, so it being that it's in our hands, we are now the marketing department. We are now the promotion department. We are now publicity. We are now radio. We are now touring, managing, merchandising. We're everything, and we have to use the power of the internet and all the things that are websites like Kickstarter, all these ways you can raise money and bring people to your project. You have to have content. I mean, it has to be good, because now the problem is, being that things are so accessible, I think there's an oversaturation of mediocrity at the same time. And so art is open to interpretation, so it's, people will like what they want to like, but there's just so much out there now, it might be hard to decipher. It's the flip side of the problem. There's just too much music out there now. It's hard. So you gotta have a good project, strong message, a strong theme in your project, good visual imagery. It has to match your music, and you have to really get out there. The people that are talking about it, the bloggers, all these influential, websites, you have to get to them and just really get them to get on board with what. It's all word of mouth, basically, at this point. It's about using the social networking sites and YouTube. You have to have content for all these things. You just gotta make sure there's a strong message, a strong theme in the music, and a plan for you to really get out in front of people. And at some point, if you're able to book shows and do tours, you have to have a good show. You know what I mean? So it's your own artist development of yourself, basically, and you have to push yourself. It's one of my favorite compositions. It's not mine. It's called My Foolish Heart.